people give me shit about it, but I'm telling you, my quote is, all things being equal, people want to do business with their friends. All things being not quite so equal, people still want to do business with their friends, period. So if you're not friendly, now's a real good time to just get out of sales because it's not going to do you any good there.
Hey y'all, welcome to Selling with Social, the podcast that helps marketers increase marketing qualified leads, sales reps to shatter sales results, and sales leaders to grow as leaders. Each show, we interview sales, marketing, and social media practitioners, leaders, and influencers to help you connect, close more deals, build stronger relationships with clients, and improve your sales productivity. I'm Mario Martinez Jr. You're now listening to Selling with Social. Jeffrey Gitomer, the king of sales. Welcome to Selling with Social, my friend. Thank you for joining me today.
It's a doggone pleasure. Selling with Social is something that I'm a part of, or I'm apart from, because I get the emails. I click on the links, and I feel as though I'm like part of the show now. It makes me feel real good.
Well, technically, you really are now part of the show.
Oh, damn. Well, there you go. I'm coming to you all the way from Charlotte, North Carolina. I don't know if you've ever seen a weather report in the United States, but we don't admit that Canada exists. You see a line above Montana, and there's nothing there. You know what I mean? It's the craziest thing on the planet. They show the weather, but they refuse to show Canada.
Yeah, well, we tend to think that we're the only ones here in North America.
Right, exactly. Well, you can always tell a Canadian, they say North America. They never say Canada. You can always tell an American, they only say the United States. They don't include Mexico or Canada.
That's exactly right. That's true. That's true. Listen, Jeffrey, I'm so excited to have you here on the show. And this has been a long time coming to get you on here. And I'm excited. You've got, if I'm not mistaken, is it 13 books?
Yes.
13 books.
No, 13 books that have been on a bestseller list, some more than others, but all my books have been on bestseller lists. My record is the Little Red Book of Selling that appeared on the Wall Street Journal bestseller list 103 straight weeks.
Holy Toledo. So
it's amazing.
I can't get my first book out yet. So maybe you're going to have to give me some tips here to help me get the first one out.
Okay, I'll give you a tip. Fly to Charlotte, spend a day with me, and I will make certain that happens. There's a fee involved, but I'll make certain that happens.
Do I get the friends and family discount?
No.
I love it. No discount. I love it. That's exactly the way to do it.
No, wait a minute. If you get a heart operation, do you want the cheapest guy, or do you want the guy that's going to transplant your heart?
I want the guy that's going to transplant my heart and ensure that I live.
I'm going to put you on a bestseller list.
I love it. All right. Fantastic.
But you need two things. You need an agent, and I think more important, you need a publisher. Someone that will actually take your book to the next level by promoting it properly, and I can help you with both of those. I have a lot of friends in the business that love to give help to authors that have content, and the reason that I would be excited about doing this with you is that you have content.
I'm going to take that one and I'm going to run with it because I appreciate that. In fact, I was just reminiscing over the weekend over what has happened with Vengreso and myself over the past year.
You got a freaking yacht. What else?
Well, I mean, the yacht is the yacht. I mean, what else can I say?
If you want to take me to the Great Wall of China, click a button.
That's exactly right. I'll take you there. I'll take you all around the world, my friend, with my great Zoom backgrounds.
Thank you.
Listen. Do me a favor. I think if somebody doesn't know you, it'd be somewhat crazy because you're legendary in terms of sales and sales influencer. You've been around for quite some time. In fact, many of us probably have seen you speak somewhere at a corporate event. But do me a favor, just talk a little bit about you. Okay. And I want to understand, what got you here to now 13 best-selling books, 2,500 corporate events, Jeffrey Gitomer, Sell or Die podcast. You've got a YouTube following that's crazy. What got you here? Tell us about you.
I grew up in a family that was smart, and my mom and dad were smart, and that made me smart. And I then had the opportunity to either use my gift or not. And when I went to New York City to sell, I realized that I needed to really learn how to engage quickly, engage the other person emotionally, have a good time with them, and walk away with business. So I cold called in New York City for about 3 years. And that gave me, let me explain it in the vernacular. I don't know whether you speak this in Canada or not, brass balls. And that, I think, is the real understanding of what it takes to be able to make it in sales. You need to have that warrior attitude. And then when you win and you look around you and the other people that you beat were really not that good, then you realize you can do things that other people cannot do. And that's when I began to train. Once I started to train, then I started to write about what I believed to be true, and people read and responded to it positively. And that's what started the wagon train. I never wrote a book. I just wrote a column every week. And after I wrote my 100th one, that became the Sales Bible. And after that, I just kept on writing all the time. I'm very disciplined about writing. I write almost every day. And I've only been doing that for about 25 years. So I'm going to do it another 25, and then that's it. I'm going to quit. But what brought me here is that people responding to what I wanted to say. The brief definition of it is I've given 2,500 corporate events over the last 22 years, never made a phone call. Everyone who has ever hired me has called me first. And, that's part of how it works, I guess. If you have good content, not if you build it, they will come. But if you have content that people can relate to and use and turn into money, then they'll respond back to you. And that's pretty much been my story.
So we'll start out with, you got to have brass balls.
Right. You got to go to New York City and get a few hundred doors slammed in your face.
All right.
You got to have people ask you for a bribe. Everything happens to you in New York City. It's not like you're in Omaha, Nebraska, and I don't mean any offense to Omaha or even Dallas, Texas, it's just not the same environment. New York City is a dog eat dog literally environment.
Yeah. And so we're going to translate that. I love what you said, though. We're going to use that quote, warrior attitude, right? Mm-hmm. I love that. And I think that's the world of sales. And for individuals who literally, as you think about the progression of your career and where you're at today as a sales influencer, and I'm going to put you in that category, sales influencer, and I'm going to also say that I aspire, right, to influence like the way you have as well. But
you're already doing it. You have a great influence. You have achieved influence. Now you have to achieve infamy.
I'll take that one. We'll go there.
When I finished the Sales Bible, I'm riding around with my daughter, Rebecca, and I said, listen, I'm going to make you one promise. I will make the New York Times bestseller list, which currently is almost impossible to do. But back then, in 1994, you could do it. And I did it. And I've made it several times. But the challenge is, can you make a goal or can you make an affirmation and then achieve it? That's the real killer. Most people have goals, but they're just pipe dreams. And I think that your determination, your desire, if you go read Think and Grow Rich another 10 times or so, and you'll realize that desire is one of the main pieces in his opus. That if you don't have the desire for it, it's not going to get done.
So one of the things that I'm pretty passionate about, and I think this tees off the warrior attitude of, you've got the warrior attitude, you trained on it, you wrote about it, and people have responded to it, and you continued on that process. Mm-hmm. One of the things I'm pretty bullish about is breaking the norm. And this is interesting. One of my taglines is don't do normal, right? Everything that we learned in sales, and this is my 21st year in sales, right? So I started out as a telemarketer, then now called SDR, BDR, working for a software company. Right. And that was when I was 19 years old, which was crazy. Started making great coin. Actually decided to make that full time because I was making over $100,000 a year at that point, back 21 years ago. My gosh. Mm-hmm. And I said, what do I need college for? I was at UC Berkeley. Up until now, where we're really fast forwarding, in this case, Vengreso. And there's just been interesting discussion. And this interesting discussion of investors with professional service firms versus investors with technology, and that they don't want these two worlds to blend. And I was recently talking to an investor, and I was like, you're wrong. The two worlds must blend. And that's the old way of investing, the old way of thinking. Here's why. Most application software companies don't have a way to make their clients love and keep that application sticky. And I'm trying to break the norm of bringing these two worlds together of tech and professional service. So That's my warrior attitude. I totally digressed. And
that's okay. I think you also have to keep in mind that we're now at Generation Z.
Yeah.
Which is my daughter, who's at the bottom of it. She's 9. And every time I talk to her about something technologically, she will respond back by saying, "Oh, yeah, I have that app, Daddy." Huh?
Yeah.
So keep in mind that if you're trying to blend those worlds, there's an app for that. And you have to be app friendly or app understanding or app downloadable in order to be able to blend with the tech world that's out there, regardless of the world that you grew up in.
Totally agree with you, which probably leads me to you, I think, personified this whole notion and idea about the right type of attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, Yes Attitude is your last book, right?
It is indeed a book. It's the 10th anniversary of the Yes Attitude book, which has already sold 250,000 copies. And the book has been redone, rewritten, added 20 pages to it, and updated because the world changes every decade. And this was the 10th edition of the book. So it was destined that this be the, quote, new edition of the book. People think I got a positive attitude. I don't buy that. I buy that you have a yes attitude because it means that you're thinking and responding, that your resilience resounds with the word yes. Now, it may not always be yes. It may be some form of the process, but it has to be a positive response that either can lead to a yes or has a yes expression attached to it. And most people don't. Most people tell you what they can't do rather than tell you what they can do. Like no one says, "Welcome to our hotel." They just say, "Checking in." I said, "No, I'm here for my hair transplant." Like, what do you think I'm doing? I got my bag, right? Or they'll say something like this. "Well, we were full last night and check-in time is 3:00, so come back at 3:00. Like, lady, it's 10:00 in the morning. I've just come off a 3-hour flight. My check-in time is now. So go in the back and tell your mommy or your daddy that there's a customer out here. He's looking for 2 things. He's looking for friendly, he's looking for help, and he perceives you as neither." Now, they could have just as easily started out to, "Welcome to our hotel. We were full last night. That means you're part of our We're Full program. The minute your room is ready, I'm going to text you. In the meantime, we have a business center and a restaurant. Feel free to use both of them at our expense." Either way, it's a response that says yes or no. Tell me what you can do, not what you can't do. Mm-hmm. Simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that happens probably 1,000,000 times a day in any part of North America.
Absolutely. Not only does that happen in business, but just generally speaking, family, relationships, everywhere, right? Don't tell me what you can't do. Let's talk about how we can do something.
Yep. And most of the time, and this is pretty interesting, people will be defensive about their process, not friendly about their process. "Well, I'm doing the best I can. We're real busy, you know. There's lots of people here besides you." And you hear it all the time. All the time.
Interestingly enough, when I was in corporate, one of my principles that I managed by, as well as held others accountable for, was the rule, never take no for an answer. When you work inside of the Fortune 100 space, there are defined processes, procedures, proper etiquette, all these types of things that, quite frankly, we hear the term 50% of your sales battle is not externally, but internally.
Yeah.
In my opinion, if anybody in an organization says 50% of your battle is internally, you've got a flawed internal system.
Totally. You know, there's a whole LinkedIn group on how sales and marketing can get along. Like, what kind of an idea is that to have to talk about? Like, seriously.
Or the other one would be the contracts, finance, pricing groups, and the sales groups. Now, there's always going to be
those as the sales prevention department.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I believe that there's always going to be some sort of tension between the groups, right? Because you have one that's always going to try to protect the company.
Well, yeah, I'm all in favor of protection, but there's protection with harmony and there's protection with territory.
Tease that out for me. Tease out the protection with harmony versus territory.
With harmony is you're working with the salesperson to figure out how it can be done.
Exactly.
With protection of territory, this is my department. I rule it. These are the rules, and this is what you're going to have to live by, sales guy who goes out and plays golf on Thursday.
Yeah. Or the other one is, well, we have certain margins
that we have to live by, right.
So as a salesperson, your first question is, well, tell me what that is.
Sorry, but we don't share that information with you.
Exactly. And the crazy part is but if I understood what I'm allowed to do and what I'm not allowed to do, then I'll sell to that. But then here's the problem. The pricing team, the finance team, the contracts team always says, well, if we tell them the minimum, they'll always go for the minimum. No, not necessarily, because I want to prize myself off of selling the highest margin deal.
Right. I want to make my commission based on how much I can earn. But
Exactly.
Let me just throw this at you. There's a middle piece that's missing.
What is that?
The middle piece is perceived value of customer. Most companies have a value proposition that the salesperson uses that contains the word we. We do this. We answer the phone fast. We have inventory. We. Rather, no value proposition, because if you have inventory and I don't need inventory, what do I care? Literally, what do I care? If you have somebody that answers the phone 24 hours a day and I'm only 9 to 5, what do I care?
Right.
So I'm challenging you that value has to be in the perception of the customer, and then the sale can be made, period. So regardless of price and minimums and all the other bullshit that people in that contract thing come about, they don't offer you any resolution. They don't offer you any ideas as to how to convey value so the customer will pay the price. And that's it. That's totally it. We're going to go to the Cleveland Clinic to get a heart operation, or we're going to go to the hospital in your hometown where, Dr. Mandrake Kirby or Dr. Vinny Boom Bots has been there for 20 years and he's getting a little old, but, he'll make it. He shakes a little, but he'll make it. Now, the price of the shaky guy is only 10 grand. The Cleveland Clinic is 50 grand. It's perceived value.
Yeah.
And I want to make certain that I'm able as a salesperson to convey and transfer that value message and not have to worry about price. I got a price. You want to pay my price? Fine. You want that shitty speaker? Let me give you his number. That's how I look at it.
I had a pricing contracts and finance team that I used to work with, and the gentleman that headed it up, his name was Darren Brochet, and I used to call him Brewski. It's spelled Burchschi. He's going to kill me if I can't remember how to spell his last name. Anyways, I'm talking about him. And I got to tell you, we'd have some of the greatest sales that were made with this guy. Why? Number one, even when he said no, he said, why don't you try this?
Bingo.
Okay.
Bingo.
And here's where it even got better. When I challenged him and said, no, that's not going to fly with the customer. Why don't you come on the call with me and let's present it back, or let's go to the appointment together and let's present it back to the client, and you help me sell this if this is something that we can't do to meet the needs.
If I worked for a Fortune 500 company, I would drag the CEO with me every chance I could.
Well, and the crazy part about what Darren would do, he'd say, okay. So he would join these client calls, which is what most folks in the back end don't do, right?
Right.
He would join the client calls, and we would have a game plan of what we think we're trying to do.
Of course.
With the ability to call an audible.
Yeah.
And he would do that. And man, I got to tell you, we closed $30+ million deals. I know a $45 million contract. We closed $1 million deals because he was engaged with no, but we can try this. And I would say that won't work. If you want to do that, then you got to help me sell it.
Right. As long as there's positive give and take.
Yeah.
I don't want to say give and take, that there's positive give and take.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. And you've hit the nail on the head, and salespeople are right now either agreeing or lamenting the fact that their bosses, leaders, whatever, don't give that information. Where we talked about at first, we're about making a quota. I don't want the boss to come and stick a foot up my butt and tell me that I got to make more sales. I want the boss to come and show me how.
Yeah.
I want the boss to say, come on, let's go out on the road together and let me help you make your quota. That's the boss I want, isn't you?
Absolutely. My best advice, tell me if you agree with this, but my best advice for sales folks who are, especially in that Fortune, say 500 space, where you've got that.
Even Fortune 1,000.
Fortune 1,000. Where you've got that separation between your pricing and contracts team. You've got this battle that you do internally.
Right. The RFP deal or whatever they're asking for.
And my best advice is when you don't think it's the right thing, ask your pricing, your finance, your contracts person to get on the line with the customer.
Right. I agree with that. 1,000%.
And then furthermore, when you believe that you're up against something that is not the right thing, that you do what it takes to be able to elevate that to the level of management that it needs to get to.
I'm going to give an example.
Please.
The sales guy says he can't get the person to respond to them in a certain way. And the sales manager will say, well, did you find the pain? Like, what do you mean the pain? Like where it hurts or what?
Right.
So I'm going to ask them if they found the pleasure. Did you find out what you both know about? Did you find out what you both like? Did you find out where your favorite football teams are, or where you went to college, or what your favorite hobby is, or where you go on vacation? Did you find anything in common with that person?
Yeah.
Not finding the pain of none of your business.
Yeah.
And pain is prevalent in sales processes. Every insurance agent wants to find the pain. Salespeople all over the place. I think it's the biggest piece of bullshit ever perpetrated on mankind because it models a 1970s version of the selling process, which is so antiquated that it's a disgrace to our profession, my opinion.
So not talking about the pain, but talking about the pleasure, the commonalities, right. The relationship building.
Tell me what you can do. And tell me what we're going to have fun at doing. Tell me that we're going to go play golf.
Yeah. So I was just out in New York training one of our newest clients. And one of the things I asked about, I said, how often are you meeting your clients in person as opposed to a virtual meeting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a virtual video conference.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer was that we're probably meeting them face-to-face 20 to 30% of the time, which rewind 10 years ago, and that was probably flip-flop. We're probably meeting them 70% of the time in person, right?
But now you Zoom it, or you would Zoom US works. Skype does not, but they still Skype it.
I'm going to vote for Zoom.
I'm voting for Zoom also. That's just me.
No offense against my Microsoft brethren, but let me tell you, Zoom's got it right. But nonetheless, so this is what I said to them. In the old days, and by the way, I was talking to a millennial crowd, right? Less than 35. And I said, in the old days, when you walked into someone's office, what's the first thing that you looked for?
Stuff that you might be able to talk about, have in common, things that might want to evoke questions. I was always very sensitive to looking for everything in somebody's office so that I could say, instead of saying nice trophy, I would say, can you tell me how you won this?
Exactly. I was always looking for the big fish on the wall, right? And the big fish is, holy cow, did you catch that? Where did you do that at?
I walked into a guy's office who owned his own furniture resale company, and he was a former U.S. secret agent that guarded the president.
Yeah.
And he had pictures of all presidents on the wall that he had, guarded, but one sat on a wall all by itself. And so when I walked in his office, I go, tell me about this one. This is the one I want to know about. And it was on the day that Bush got shot at, and he was there.
Mm.
So, they all have stories, and those are emotional stories. I want to find the emotion that will give me heartfelt connection. Heartfelt emotional connection is what I want to know about.
Back to your point, the pleasure.
Yeah, exactly. I just flew back on, I hate to say it, American Airlines from Paris, and we had one upgrade. So I gave it to my daughter, and she's 9, and she's watching movies in first class, right?
I love it.
But she's watching The Great American Showman, which is just a phenomenal movie.
Yeah.
But because it critiquers, they all panned it. All the critics panned the movie because it showed what assholes critics are. And isn't that interesting?
That's
but
true.
The movie is in the 500 millions now. I mean, it's one of the biggest box office successes of all time, and will continue to be so because it's so uplifting. And it's about P.T. Barnum. If you know anything about P.T. Barnum, he was the leader of the pack of promotion, and just an amazing chap who literally started the circus or made the circus famous.
Yeah, it definitely was a great movie. That's for sure. To your point, though, so now with 70%, it being flip-flop, 70% plus of your meetings being virtual, where do you find that big fish on the wall, right? Or the president?
You can't find the big fish on the wall. You can go to their LinkedIn. My recommendation to the new salesperson is before you make a sales call, you better know the name of the person and their company, so you can look them up on LinkedIn, both by person and by company, that you can Google them, both by person and by company, and that you can look up their website. If you don't do those 3 things or those 5 things before you make a sales call, you're a fool. And you're a fool who's going to get caught.
Great example of that is we had in one of our training classes, one of the reps had been trying to penetrate this CXO's office for 6 months. Every tactic in the book, he laid it out. Every tactic in the book. He's like, help me with this social thing. So we sit down. We're in the class, where it's one of our workshops. He's like, I've tried everything. I can't figure out what to say. So on his website, when we went to the website, hidden in one of the pages from the directory, you can get to it by clicking through, was this great tagline. And I can't remember what it was, but it was a great tagline. I can't remember. It was so great, right?
Exactly.
But it was a great tagline that they
Did
used.
It start out with, you can fool some of the people some of the time? No, okay.
No. And I told him, I said, take that tagline, since he's one of the founders, take that tagline, use it in the subject line.
Of course. Use their own verbs as a weapon. Use their own language to be able to get inside their head. That's the whole deal. And believe me, they will respect the hell out of you for doing that.
Absolutely. And interestingly enough, in this particular circumstance, after 6 months of trying, call, email, knocking on their door, sending out contact information or information directly by FedEx, all the different tactics. 2 hours, the POC responded as a result of that in-mail coming from that individual using their content. All you had to do was find the big fish on the wall. In this case, the big fish on the wall was something that he was proud of, right? He was proud of his company, his content, his website, his organization. That's what we found, because there was nothing else on his LinkedIn profile. But that's what we found.
So the big fish on the wall is the metaphor, for those of you listening, for you to find something that you can talk about that would interest the other person in you. Hopefully you have got something in common, but if not, you have to find something that they are interested in emotionally so that they will connect with you. You attract, you engage, and finally you connect. But you connect with something that they perceive as valuable to them or of interest to them or of common ground with them.
And that's how we go from, no, there isn't anything available, there's no information, to,
yeah, don't give me that crap.
Yes, there is something, right? The yes attitude.
So let me throw something at you with yes attitude. If you wake up and you don't feel good, stay in bed until you do. They do with kids now. They call it timeout. I just got a whack in the butt when I was growing up, but timeout is a place where a kid can either go to their room and figure out how to do it again without getting caught.
Yeah.
Or they go to the room and start their thought process over again.
Yeah.
Like they click restart.
Yeah.
And I do it with my daughter, and it works. I just said, listen, just spend 5 minutes thinking about what you could have done or how that could have been positive, and then report back. And they do. And it's almost universal. You can learn a hell of a lot about how to make a relationship with somebody in business from a 10-year-old kid, because they're what's next. And whatever they're doing, do a lot of that.
I love it. So let's talk about the game plan. A game plan to embrace.
Stay in bed till you're happy. Get out of bed and look in the mirror and feel good about yourself. I post my goals on my bathroom mirror. It's in the Yes book. I look at my goals every morning and every night. And I actually like looking in the mirror because it shows me where I'm going and sometimes what my achievements are.
Yeah.
I do it on Post-it notes, and I've got probably right now a dozen of them up on my bathroom mirror. I put Post-it notes on one side so I can see myself on the other side. It's not like full. But the bottom line is it gives me a direction, a positive direction to head in the morning. Then my goal is to perform one random act of kindness and make 10 people smile daily. And I found that when I make somebody else smile, it makes me smile. Literally, the first thing you and I did this morning was laugh together.
Yeah.
And that sets the tone. If you walk into somebody's place of business and say, and the guy says, let's get right down to business, or the woman says, let's get right down to business, that's not where I want to be. Yeah. I'm not in the right place. Oh, I'm sorry. I got the wrong address.
Walk out.
Right. I got to go now. But when you're happy, here's my number.
So
I want to do business with people that are happy. It's just as easy to find someone who's happy as someone who's not happy. And maybe I can help them find a pathway to happiness. So I'll carry a couple of Yes Attitude books with me and autograph them for somebody.
Right.
Hey, I brought this book with me. Who do you think needs it?
So funny you mentioned that, because going back to this training I was doing in New York last week, one of the messaging templates that I showed was the wording, "Hey, John," or "Hey, Susie," right? Exclamation point. And then an enclosure with "You bet, my friend," right? So some of the reps were looking at this saying, don't you think it's a little bit too formal? And here's my response. My response was, anytime you see my writing, it is very much like that. It is very much energetic. That is so me. If you see me publish anything on social, if you see my content, I'm very much personally engaged. And you know what? If someone is offended by the "Hey, Jeffrey," or "Thanks, my friend," they probably would not have done business with me because they couldn't like or didn't like or wouldn't like my personality.
Hey, I'm not that kind of guy. But the one thing that I don't want to do, I don't want to prejudge somebody. Mario, I don't think it's the right thing to do. Salespeople have been prejudging prospects for years, so I'm going to give somebody at least 2 or 3 shots before I think it's a yes or a no.
Okay.
Because oftentimes, if you go with the first impression, it's not the lasting impression, and it certainly may not be the right impression. And while first impressions count, they may not always be the way, especially when you're in New York City, because everyone has folded arms attitude approach, like, who the hell are you?
Yeah.
And you know it. If you were just there last week, you got who the hell are you all the time. Like I try to be friendly now because I live in Charlotte where things are friendly. And I'll go to New York City and I'll be at the Starbucks barista thing and I'll go, "Hey, how's it going?" And they go, "What do you want?" They refuse to accept the friendliness. You know what I mean? It's pretty interesting. When you do make the friend with them, you'll find that they're uber responsive to whatever it is that you're hoping for.
Here's a good one for you. So my goal every time I go into a Starbucks or anywhere I'm buying something, I always close out when they tell me the bill. It's X dollars. I look at them and I say, "Did you make sure you give me my good-looking discount?"
Yeah. They look at you like you're a freaking nut.
With most people, their face is like, "I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say."
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
A good answer. I just told somebody this over the weekend. I said, they're like, and I was like, "I'm just kidding with you. Laugh." You know, they're like, so I said, a good answer though would have been, "It's already included."
Exactly. Yeah, for you, I'd have to add a little on.
Yeah, exactly.
When I go to Starbucks, they ask me for my name and I say King. And they'll look at me and I go, "It's King, King." And sure enough, at the end, they'll go, "King." And it feels good. You can be anybody you want in Starbucks. But the reality is most people are not having enough fun. They're either on their phone or away from their desk. Or "Your call is very important to me," or "Please select from among the following 9 options." There's no fun involved in that process. And when you find that out, then immediately I know who I'm dealing with. But if somebody tries to be funny, I immediately know who I'm dealing with. And it's going to be a hell of a lot easier time for me to deal with someone who wants to have a good time than it is for someone that wants to be, quote, professional.
Yeah.
I don't want professional. I want friendly.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good. So we're going to call this one of our best tips today for salespeople to take away and sales leaders is have fun.
Yeah. Lean on friendly. Err on the side of friendly, not on the side of professionalism. And people give me shit about it, but I'm telling you, my quote is, all things being equal, people want to do business with their friends. All things being not quite so equal, people still want to do business with their friends. Period. So if you're not friendly, now's a real good time to just get out of sales because it's not going to do you any good there.
So to what you just said, inside of our training decks, all things being equal, all things being unequal, relationships will win.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Every time. Every time. In fact, you ask any salesperson how they keep loyal customers, they're going to say relationship. Every time. Yeah. And if you ask any professional sales guy, like an accountant or a lawyer or somebody like that, well, how do you get new clients? Oh, referrals. Well, how do you get those? I don't know. They have no idea how they get referrals.
Good relationships.
That's the only way. They have to trust you enough to risk giving you a friend of theirs in order to save the relationship you have with the person that you referred. Period.
So review.
Yeah.
Yes, attitude. You got to have the positive mental attitude.
And you have to keep it up all day long. You can't just have a good attitude sometimes. When you get out of that bathroom in the morning, that sets your tone. You make 10 people smile. You perform one random act of kindness. You spread it out throughout the day. And when you get home, you do things that make you happy. I don't watch violence at all. I have no violence in my life. I got enough problems with the way the world is. I watch funny. I have focused on funny since high school. And so far, it's working.
I don't know why that made me laugh, but it did.
Well, I'm more than 50 years out of high school, so it's worked for 50 years. I'll just do it 50 more years, and then that's it.
There you go. But there is something to be said here, though. In all seriousness,
there's nothing serious about funny, by the way.
That's my point, right? In all seriousness, like life is too short.
Right, way too short.
And the reality is that in sales, we're going to run into roadblocks. We're going to run into challenges, whether it's internal, whether it's external. But if you could figure out a way to just have fun, and this is interesting because I've been chastised myself personally. I like a lot of things that I've brought as a digital sales influencer to things like LinkedIn and Twitter. I've been chastised for the way I approach my community. But I'll tell you this much. I'll go all day long with being real and being me.
Agreed.
Fun and having people understand my personality. When people shake my hand, and I was at an event last week, and they're like, man, I follow you on LinkedIn or I follow you on Twitter. Like you guys have some great content. You're always laughing. You're always this. You're always that. I want to be known for that and valuable content, as opposed to I'm this guy who gives valuable content, right?
And by the way, when someone gives you that accolade, when someone pays you that compliment, you can't slough it off or be humble about it. You look the other person in the eye, you shake their hand firmly, and you thank them. And when you do that, the message of sincerity transfers itself, and then you can play. Then you can have fun. But in the meantime, when someone pays you a compliment, you thank them.
I want to ask you this last question. I know we're coming up here on time, but there's this growing debate, if you would, that I see a lot with sales influencers, whether or not sales reps should write content or not write content. What do you think about that? Should sales reps be writing content?
It's mixed. And the mixture is, if you're good, then test it out with your friends first. If it's not good, don't go up there and look like a jackass. Because you actually do yourself a disservice.
True.
But if your content is positive, and that's a big one, if your content is positive and helpful, then you're okay. If anyone is interested today, I have a free book. It's called Retweetables. I've taken 365 of my best tweets, put them into an ebook, and anybody can get it. Just email me, Jeffrey@Gitomer.com, and I'll send you the ebook. But they're all positive. They're all things that you can read about and like about and, encourage yourself first, and then you can be the best for others. But yes, attitude, by the way, is a very selfish thing. The first thing you do is give it to yourself, and then you can give it to other people.
Yeah.
But if you're looking to put content out there, then look at mine and emulate. You don't have to, if you copy it, please acknowledge me. But if you want to look at it for inspiration for what kind of content should I put out there, it's a great content provider because most of it's 120 characters because I did it before Twitter upgraded their 280 characters.
Yeah.
I always did 120, so there was room to...
For the URL.
And not only the URL, but for the picture or for the whatever.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. We'd usually write for 100 to 120, and then the rest comes from the URL that it would take up. So that's exactly right.
I always hated seeing -2.
That's exactly right. -2 on the character count.
Bingo. Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
But I'll tell you, I've tweeted myself now for probably about 10 years. I have a person inside who tweets my stuff for me, but no one writes for me. I'm a writer. And I either tweet on the spur of the moment, and if you go look at my Twitter feed, it's @Gitomer. You'll see there's 112,000 some people that are following me, but you'll also see I get retweeted. Like people want to send my message out to other people, which is very flattering to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So from a content perspective, one of the things I tell folks is, like, if you're not a writer, create a video.
Yeah.
I personally, and we could talk about this another day, but I hate writing. I hate it, but I love taking content and bringing it to video.
Mario,
I can do that.
I have just the solution for you.
A video book.
All you have to do is show up in Charlotte.
And the rest is history.
Well, I'm just going to say this. You have all this capability, and you haven't bottled it yet.
I have not. No, I have not bottled it at all, and I needed that solution.
Well, let's put it this way. I walk into a sales call, and I give someone an autographed copy of the Little Red Book of Selling and the Little Gold Book of Yes Attitude rather than a business card. What do you use? I
use our digital assets. So that's the only thing I do, my digital content. But actually, if you actually went out to and did a hashtag search, Vengreso Vids, V-I-D-S, hashtag Vengreso Vids, or hashtag Vengreso Pics, P-I-C-S. I use this a lot for give sales reps inspiration on things that they can actually create.
Cool.
You will see through a hashtag search on LinkedIn specifically that there's a lot of great I publish pictures of my family on LinkedIn with a business twist, right? It's a messaging. So people can get to know who I am, what I'm all about.
I'm going to give you the title of your book, and then you can decide how you want to do it.
What's the title?
The Other Super Mario.
I like that. Maybe I'm going to tease that one out in my next blog article. For those who are listening in.
Listen, it will work for you.
The Other Super Mario. All these years have been said to me, "Oh, hey Mario, hey, where's Luigi?" I can now use that.
Yeah.
It might work, buddy.
But if you use it, only with my permission.
How about if I use it, you'll be writing the forward.
Oh, I'll write the forward, yeah. That's another fee.
All right. I love it. Jeffrey Gitomer, last question I have for you. Well, actually, two more questions. Excuse me. Number one, if someone wants to reach out and follow you on LinkedIn, is it as simple as going to your LinkedIn profile?
Jeffrey Gitomer.
Jeffrey Gitomer. And then click the follow button, right? Because I think you're at your map.
Yeah, follow me there because I've got 28,000 connections. I can't get any more. LinkedIn's too stupid.
And we know your Twitter handle. And if they want to reach out to you and talk to you?
Yep, I tweet back. If you really want to talk to me, Jeffrey@Gitomer.com is my email address, and that will get you directly to me. I answer my emails. But go to the Gitomer Learning Academy and take a look. I think that's probably the easiest way to find out what real content online is all about and how it's engaging.
We'll include the backlink, both for the ebook that you mentioned, along with the academy.
Cool.
So you'll see that in the show notes for those of you that are listening in. And last question for you, my friend, all-time favorite book.
Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. Some people call her Ayn Rand, but it's A-Y-N-R-A-N-D. As a writer, it's a beautifully written book. As a business philosopher, it is the answer to what's happening. And this book was written in the 50s. She wrote it on a typewriter. And her native language is not English, it's Russian. This woman was brilliant.
Wait, so that's a book, not a movie?
Right. My favorite book is Atlas Shrugged. My favorite movie is 1,000 Clowns, starring Jason Robards.
1,000 Clowns. That's a new one. We haven't had that one on Selling with Social.
I'm telling you, it came out in the 60s. It's black and white. It's about a New York businessman who drops out. It's way cool. I mean, it's way, way, way cool. Actually, it was an Academy Award winner. Martin Balsam won Best Supporting Actor.
That's going to be on my next set of movies to watch.
Go for it. I expect a movie report and a book report from you.
And to be in Charlotte.
Bingo.
There you go. Thanks so much for joining me on that episode of Selling with Social. I hope you found as much value in that episode as I did. Here's what I want you to do next. Please go to www.vengreso.com. That's VENGRESO.com. VENGRESO.com. And make sure that you get access to our content. We've got the latest and greatest in digital sales, sales training, content marketing, and social selling strategies that are going to help you grow your sales pipeline. I look forward to having you on the next show of Selling with Social. Make sure you also go to vengreso.com/podcast to be able to get access to the latest and greatest Selling with Social episodes, along with any of the other episodes that we've got from Social Business Engines with my friend and partner, Bernie Borges. Thanks again for joining on Selling with Social.